Hello everyone, it's me, Meediyuh here, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about The Amazing Digital Circus, the last act movie. I actually went to see it yesterday. I didn't have enough time in the day to record the video yesterday, so I'm doing it today. So, I'm going to be giving a little bit of a spoiler-free overview at the first minute, maybe a minute and a half of this video, so that should be completely safe to watch even if you haven't actually watched the episode. So, let's get started. So for me, I personally thought that this was maybe the second or third weakest episode in the whole series. I believe it was slightly better than the pilot, but like apart from that, it was a pretty weak episode considering the fact that it is also following up the most impactful and best episode in the whole series. Some of the stuff felt incredibly rushed in the finale, in my opinion. It's still a completely acceptable piece of television, a completely acceptable piece of animation. It's really good. The animation is amazing. I felt some of the voice acting was a bit weird, not necessarily off. I just felt it was a bit weird, maybe a little bit misguided. There were some jokes that felt incredibly weird. I personally didn't have a problem with any of the jokes present in the movie. However, I see some jokes that could potentially be problems for a certain group of people, specifically on Twitter, but we will see what happens to that as the movie gets to a wider audience. But that is the spoiler-free overview. I just don't think it's all that good. Some stuff felt rushed. Some characters seemed almost entirely missing. There were some really cool shots, though, really cool animation, as I said. It had the best scene, the two best scenes actually, in the entirety of The Amazing Digital Circus, in my opinion, from an animation perspective, from a sound design perspective, from a character design perspective. It was really cool. Really cool piece of animation. Still very much worth the watch, even if I personally didn't feel like it fully lives up to the hype. Now, let's go into the spoiler territory. Everyone that hasn't seen the movie yet should click off right about now. So, my favorite scene in this entire thing, uh, funnily enough, it is the Jax abstraction. That scene, I believe, was executed really well, as it was basically the entirety of the finale. It makes sense that that would be what was focused on the most, so that was fairly fleshed out. The one missing scene I mentioned earlier in the spoiler-free section of the review, that was the scene where Jax just abstracts off screen. It was a very annoying experience to watch. I would love to see the actual outside perspective of abstraction because I don't believe we've ever seen that, and it seems like we will never actually be seeing that. We've seen multiple times what the mindscape looks like, where just you floating in a void with all the eyes surrounding you, all the stuff that caused the trauma or whatever, all around you. That we have seen multiple times at this point. But seeing the actual physical body morph into the abstraction, how that would have been handled, is something that I was looking forward to seeing, and it seems like we're never going to get that. But the scenes that we did get of the mindscape were incredibly cool, very abstract, just everything that the digital circus, I guess, art direction is really based off of. That is something I really enjoyed. Now, time to address the elephant in the room. The fact that no one left the circus. Now, for a lot of people, this will probably be much worse of a thing than it is for me. Because I don't know how something like 80% of the audience actually got it in their heads that someone could leave. It was always gonna be impossible. It was based off of I have no mouth and I must scream. No one could leave that. The whole point of the series was coming to terms with a stagnant existence. And that was said on Twitter, I believe on Twitter, ages ago. So I just never even considered the possibility of them being able to leave. It didn't really impact my ability to watch episode 7, enjoy episode 7 or 8 at all. It's just an impossibility with the way that the story was built. So that's my take on them not being able to leave. Now, I'm gonna address the other really cool scene, which was Caine in the Void. Now, we never really had the whole explanation for how he survived being deleted, but I guess it just, whatever gets deleted just goes into the void. They just got sent to a different place in the void, I suppose, as they did genuinely delete him. But that's like the one. Those are like the two things that I really liked. The scene where he breaks the glass barrier in the void to get access to the free Wi-Fi. That was really cool. Maybe the best animation in the entire series. It reminded me a lot of To Be Hero X. If any of you has seen that, I might put like an image on screen right now. But basically, one of the characters there is able to change the art style. It's able to change dimensions and stuff, and it looked very reminiscent of that, with the 3D and everything. But that was the coolest scene, and those were the coolest scenes in the entire show. But yeah, overall, I would probably give the finale of The Amazing Digital Circus a 7 out of 10. It's not bad by any means, not at all. It's still very enjoyable to watch. It's not all that dark. The ending was maybe even a bit too happy, in my opinion. And I believe Caine was redeemed, quote unquote, a bit too fast. They were let back in a bit too fast. I understand the constraint. They only had like 10 minutes of screen time left to get everything wrapped up and get through the slideshow. But it is still something to be aware of. I just feel it was a bit rushed. But those are my thoughts. If anyone else who has already seen the movie or hasn't and has somehow got to this point, I told you to click off. But if anyone has any differing opinions, feel free to leave a comment and talk about what you actually think about The Amazing Digital Circus Episode 9, as well as the Last Act movie. There was one last thing that I wanted to touch on, but it doesn't really fit into, I guess, any of the major categories, because it's not really an issue with the episode itself, it's more of an issue with the way that the episode was handled at potentially my cinema. But I feel like the volume is just cranked up way too high. I don't know if anyone else ran into that issue, but that could potentially be a cinema specific issue, which is why I didn't really address it for quality of the actual project. There's that, and there's also the fact that episode 9, once it starts, has a genuine separation. It's very weird. I don't understand the thought process behind it to have like a little intro that shows all the characters again, because we just do not need this, as we've already seen everything, but as we've already seen all of episode 8 again. So I don't really understand why, and it sort of takes away from the climax moment of episode 8, because you have that, oh shit, literally, moment, and then it's just up, intro, and it kills all the suspense, for me at least. It just killed the entire scene. I feel like that one thing being completely cut out would have made the entire movie flow much better, and also given them a little bit more time for the Caine redemption. But that is besides the point. Overall, it's going to be like a 6.5 to a 7 out of 10 for me. Once again, if you had any differing opinions, feel free to leave those in the comment section below, and I'll be seeing you in the future video. If you actually like this new style of content where it's just me talking with some gameplay in the background, some terrible gameplay in the background, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. I will be doing a lot more of these videos in the future. I really like just being able to watch stuff and talk about it. I don't really want to do reaction content, but reviews, that's something I actually enjoy. That's something I can actually talk about. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications. I know I'm repeating myself here, but it's my process. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications, and I will be seeing you in the next one. Peace.